but I think the red gives him a little more reach in Boros Charm.
Yeah, I mean, it still seems like a pretty decent matchup, I would say, for Jonthan. Todd's deck is a little slow out of the gates, and Jonthan really can punish him for that.
Yeah, Todd's deck can just get some draws that really don't work well against aggressive decks. Like he can get Underworld Connections, heavy draws, and obviously Blood Baron's okay if you can get it to resolve, but it can come down pretty late in the game. So it's really important for Todd's removal to play a high impact here, which it does in this game because he's on the play.
Yeah, so Todd was on the play, started off on a Temple of Silence. Jonthan did have a one-drop in Soldier of the Pantheon, but it was met by a Devour Flesh from Todd, so the board is still clear right now as we move into Jonathan's second turn.
So Jonthan plays a Daring Skyjack, and he had the option to play a Temple into play and then just play a Boros Elite, but he chose to just play the Skyjack and maximize his mana for the turn.
Yeah, I mean, so does he, a Temple is a good play early on or late in the game, right?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't actually matter, like he doesn't need to get it out right away to fix his draw.
The only reason he'd want to do it is so he can cast a Spear that's in his hand right now, but instead it looks like he's just going to have to play the Temple now and just settle for a Boros Elite. And he does have a Brave the Elements in his hand, I think. So if he has to protect that Boros Elite from a removal spell. Oh, but he's a Precinct Captain.
He also has a Precinct Captain, so he's going to make the Precinct Captain this turn. Having a little bit of trouble sticking a creature on the board as the hero's downfall was hit Daring Skyjack. So Todd's still at 20. Now Todd looks like he's going to make his own mid-range creature. He shocks for Godless Shrine and then double Pack Rat this turn.
Interesting. So
I was expecting a Desecration Demon.
Yeah, those Pack Rats are both 2/2s because even though one wasn't activated, it doesn't matter.
Right. They actually still can't block the Precinct Captain profitably here, though.
Because Precinct Captain has first strike, so now Precinct Captain's going to come through, deal 2 damage, and Jonathan's going to get a Soldier token. Todd is at 16 because he took damage off of a Godless Shrine.
So because Todd's line here, are we seeing Todd? Is this a race going on now? Is he going to try to race him with Pack Rats?
I don't. Well, he could start activating now. I don't think he's going to start racing just because it wouldn't be very profitable for him because the amount of the damage that Jonathan's deck can produce is just too much. I think he just wants to start churning out Pack Rats.
So Todd has 2 cards left in hand. One of them is a Godless Shrine. He played a Temple of Silence this turn, scryed to the bottom. That Godless Shrine almost certain to turn into a rat. And he has 1 other card. So because of the Mutavault, he actually could have 4 rats in play this turn.
So Jonthan draws a land, which means he can play Spear of Heliod and still have Brave the Elements up.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's scary is it looks like Jonthan has double Brave in his hand right now, which could be enough to take Todd's whole life total. So we do see the Spear of Heliod played. John does he has his weapon, so we know Boros Charm and at least 1 Brave the Elements in his hand.
So let's see. It looks like everything is going to come through. And is he going to cast Brave prior to blocks, or is he just going to try to let Todd block here?
So the Precinct, I mean, if he lets Todd block, it looks like a Pack Rat can just go ahead and eat the Precinct Captain. He can make a token and have Mutavault activate itself, making all his Pack Rats into 4/4s. It looks like that block would be really punishing for Suarez.
No, I don't. The Mutavault wouldn't get pumped because it's not a Pack Rat, it's just a rat.
No, the Mutavault would pump the other rats, though.
I think we can bring a Pack Rat. Does it just pump up other Pack Rats or all rats?
It's other rats.
Oh, rats. Okay.
There's the combo in Limited where you play Drain Pipe Vermins with them, and it would give you a 1-up on making Pack Rats.
Oh, very nice. So, yeah, for each number of rats you control. Okay. So, yeah, Mutavault will pump those rats. So, Todd could end up having 4 4/4s in play.
And then it'd have to be a tapped Mutavault.
Yeah.
But it would still serve to pump the rats, which, we have a 3/3 first strike Precinct Captain. That 4th point is really important. So we're going to see at least him discarding the Godless trying to make 1 rat.
Oh, wow. So great play for Jonthan. Todd does decide to activate Pack Rat, and in response, Jonthan casts Brave the Elements, giving his guys protection from black. So basically, he wanted Todd to act first so that in case he had a removal spell.
Really nice heads-up play there by Jonthan.
Yeah, Todd could have chose to block first, then make a token. He would have let 1 creature go through, but instead now Jonthan just is able to attack with everything.
Yeah. Now the danger here in this matchup, or at least why I really like it from Suarez's side, is that despite the fact the black-white mid-range has a lot of removal spells, it doesn't have a true sweeper in the deck. You look at this board, you want an Anger of the Gods it, or you wish you had some way to sweep it.
Shrivel doesn't come in until after board. You're relying a lot on just 1-for-1ing them, which can be difficult because the weenie decks can just put so many creatures onto the board cheaply. Todd did draw Last Breath, but I'm not sure if that'll be enough this game, given the fact that Jonthan does have another Brave and a Boros Charm in his hand.
Yeah, because he lacks a sweeper, Todd's stabilizing card in this game is actually Blood Baron of Vizkopa, so he has to go over the top because
Yeah.
he can't remove all the creatures.
Yeah, that's the big problem. Is a lot of his stabilizing effects, like you said, are creatures like Desecration Demon or Blood Baron, which you don't want to have to rely on blocking in order to beat these beatdown decks.
All right, Jonthan's going to go for the kill. He casts Brave of the Elements, naming black.
We're going to get a Mutavault is going to be able to block still, plus a Last Breath will deal with one of the creatures, but I think he's still going to be taking 4, which means he'll be in Boros Charm range.
Yeah, he can get himself down to 1 if he prevents the most damage. But yeah, the Boros Charm should be enough to finish him off. So we'll see Mutavault gets activated. It's going to throw itself in front of one of the creatures there. I mean, Todd has to. Well, it doesn't really matter. The Boros Charm should get him no matter what he blocks here.
Yeah, because the Spear of Heliod is going to pump all his creatures, so there's at least the 2 soldiers could get through, and they're both 2/2, so 4 damage will be getting through.
Yeah,
but it looks like he's going to Last Breath his own creature, but I still don't think that's enough.
Yeah, he Last Breaths. He blocks the Mutavault. Interesting play. Last Breaths his own Mutavault, so that means he goes up to 11, and then yep, the Boros Charm is enough to negate that. So game 1 goes to Jonthan Suarez and white-red aggro.
And that's kind of what we expected. I mean, white-red aggro, the reason the white weenie decks, whether they're white-red or white-black, the reason they kind of resurfaced in popularity was because of the fact that they have good matchups against the black and blue devotion decks. More so against black devotion, but obviously game 1's very important for them to win because after board, Todd has a suite of removal that he can bring in. He's got 3 copies of Shrivel, which are obviously very good against this style deck given the number of 1 toughness creatures in Jonathan's main deck. He also has another copy of Last Breath he can bring in, another copy of Doomblade, along with 3 copies of Lifebane Zombie. Not sure Lifebane Zombie is really a card that he wants to bring in this match.
Yeah, do you think the Lifebane Zombie will hit a creature when he plays it? It's late in the game, but then again, if there still is a creature left, it should be pretty good against Suarez.
The only thing I can see Lifebane Zombie being good at is if you're on the play, you're likely going to get a creature, but you can also attack an Ajani because it has Intimidate, so you can get through and attack an Ajani. But in general, I just don't think it's effective enough in this matchup. Obviously, Todd really just wants to be all in on his removal package to give himself enough time where Blood Baron can kind of take over the game.
Yeah, so you mentioned Ajani Call of the Pride. That's a 3 of in Jonathan's deck. We didn't actually see any of them that game. He's playing 3 Ajani and only 2 Spear of Heliod. So that's a little different from normal, I believe. It's more Ajani's than you'd expect.
Well, Ajani is actually a card that we were testing a lot for Pro Tour Dublin. It's a very powerful card. It lets you put a lot of pressure on control decks without overcommitting too much to the board. It makes cards like Shrivel not nearly as effective against Jonathan's deck. And it's one of these cards that I think after board, he's going to be really leaning on Ajani and Spears in order to kind of win because Todd does have a lot of removal, so you have to make each of your threats even more imposing. So Ajani's going to play a much larger role after board than it even does game 1.
All right. So in Todd's deck, when you say a lot of removal, I see Last Breath, I see Devour Flesh, I see the sideboard Shrivels. One of those things have in common is that none of them get killed by Boros Charm. That's a card that's a 3 of in Jonathan's main. He has a 4th in the board. I think on first thought I'd say I want to board in him a 4th Boros Charm against a removal deck, but because it only actually hits half of Todd's removal, do we still do that, or does he just play more threats, more creatures?
Yeah, I think Brave the Elements is basically your anti-removal package. It sort of protects your creatures. Boros Charm gives you a lot of reach. The problem is it's hard to kind of burn them out after board because of the amount of removal they'll have, and they try to win with cards like Blood Baron. So I think Fiendslayer Paladin is definitely a card that you can see coming in. But I'm not so sure about an extra Boros Charm.
Yeah. Now he also has 2 Mizium Mortars in the sideboard. That's a card which is typically used. It has been a good foil to Blood Baron, especially out of a white-red aggro deck. He actually does no way to remove it outside of the Mizium Mortars. I would think he brings it in the matchup, even though the card's not very well positioned in the matchup. Jonathan doesn't really want to be the one playing removal spells here because Blood Baron's such a good threat. Do you think it's probably likely we'll see those pre-boarded in, I believe?
Yeah, I think obviously you don't want to draw a Mizium Mortars against a deck that has cards like Desecration Demon and just a lot of removal. But I think the fact that Blood Baron can just be so devastating against you, you need some ways to deal with it. And it can just win you the game sometimes if Todd is basically all in on Blood Baron. So I definitely can see some of those copies coming in.
All right, so we are on to game 2. Todd will start the game on a Thoughtseize. So I'm Thoughtseize. Both players kept 7. We see Suarez's hand. It is 2 lands, Boros Elite, Daring Skyjack, Fiendslayer Paladin, Last Breath and Brave the Elements. So one of those there, most of what I'd expect. He did board in Fiendslayer Paladin. Talk to me about Last Breath, though.
Yeah, I guess Jonathan's really concerned about Pack Rat. Obviously, Pack Rat can get out of control really quickly, so wants to make sure that he doesn't lose to Pack Rat. This is one of those situations where I could see Boros Charm probably coming out in this matchup for more proactive cards that can kind of deal with some of the things he's concerned with. So either Mizzium Mortars or Last Breath. However, I'm not sure if he brought in all Last Breaths or maybe just one copy, but he only has 2 in his sideboard.
Well, Pack Rat is the only card that Last Breath hits here, and it only hits it if he gets it early.
Yeah, it seems like a strange choice there to bring in, but again, we did see Pack Rat in game 1. Maybe he just had that in his mind.
All right, well, Todd chose to take Fiendslayer Paladin. Jonthan had the option between Shocking to play the Boros Elite. He instead opted for a Temple of Triumph.
Yeah, I think that plays fine because obviously Boros Elite is a great one-drop, but it's not like you're going to be able to attack with it for that much damage on turn 2.
Right, especially we see a Mutavault from Todd. It couldn't even attack at all.
The Mutavault play makes that play even better. So.
Okay, so Mutavault, hold on, we're saying that Pack Rat was the only target for Last Breath. That's not actually true. Mutavault's also a target.
That's true.
We see a turn 2 Daring Skyjack from Suarez, so he has his first creature on the battlefield.
So it looks like Todd did bring in those Lifebane zombies, and here we go.
Yeah, it's going to be able to hit here. We see the new draws from Suarez are a Soldier of the Pantheon and a second copy of Boros Elite.
So pretty good situation for Jonathan, despite the fact that Todd is able to pick his hand apart right here, because he's going to be able to drop 2 1-drops next turn and start attack with Battalion the following turn. And he also has a little protection around Devour Flesh now if he wants to keep that Skyjack in play.
All right, so we'll see on the draw. He has another Soldier of the Pantheon, so now he has 3 1-drops in his hand.
Yeah, unfortunately he doesn't have a third land, so only 2 of them will be able to come into play. He also has the option of playing 1 and keeping Brave the Elements up, but it looks like he's just going to drop everything in play.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to drop it because that line, he has that line available next turn, right?
Yeah.
All right, moving over to Todd. He has actually boarded in
Wow.
Sin Collector. That's a huge, first of all, he casts Shrivel out of the board, which is huge. Shrivel, interestingly enough, we saw when White Red Aggro became popular, we saw that Golgari Charm was just fantastic against it. Some of the black decks, though, were not too keen on boarding green, and so the Shrivel has really been the mono-black Golgari Charm.
So Todd it looks like Todd drew another Shrivel. So the potential for another blowout in the works here as Jonathan drew a Imposing Sovereign.
Yeah.
But he also has that Fiendslayer Paladin, but he doesn't have a third mana yet.
Yeah, both players playing at breakneck speed here. So we see Jonathan make a Imposing Sovereign. Todd has the kill spell for it. Then Jonathan puts in a Soldier of the Pantheon, hits for 2, plays another Imposing Sovereign. But those 2 get 2 for 1 by Shrivel. Todd not letting John stick anything on the board.
Finally, third land and Fiendslayer Paladin comes down. But Todd has the Devour Flesh, which does not target Fiendslayer.
Right, and it was a good job of Todd there to save that Devour Flesh. There were, John did have a lone Soldier of the Pantheon one of those turns, and Todd let it hit him, and that gave him the option now to use the Devour Flesh on the Fiendslayer.
And there's Pack Rat, and we do have a Last Breath, but again, Last Breath not very effective against Pack Rat when Todd has plenty of mana up.
So because Todd has 4 mana up and one of them is a Mutavault, Last Breath's actually just not a card here. Todd could, in response, make a Pack Rat and then pump with Mutavault.
Here he's going to be able to Last Breath it, though.
Yep, because Todd went for the Rat token.
Yeah, had Todd waited a turn, he could have played around the Last Breath that he knew about, but
Todd still gets a Pack Rat copy, right?
Yeah, he's still going to get a Pack Rat copy. It's not game over. It's just
right.
He wouldn't be able to completely blank the Last Breath.
Yeah, it's so interesting how Pack Rat, went from being, an impressive limited card, something no one played in Constructed, to really being, I guess, a force even in Constructed.
Yeah. So it looks like Todd might just try to make 2 Pack Rats here. Or no, he's going to make a Pack Rat and attack with Mutavault. So wants to put a little pressure on here. Yep. He knows about the Brave the Elements, and I don't think he knows about the Boros Charm. Or no, I think he knows about everything except for the Soldier, which just came into play.
In this matchup, how much does Todd have to be aggressive? Doesn't he?
I think you just want to make Pack Rats.
Yeah, once he gets control, can Todd lose it, or is it? It's pretty much his.
You can't lose from this situation. The Pack Rat's just way too effective when you start cranking out. When you have 4 in play, and you're gonna make 1 a turn. Jonathan has nothing in play really. It's just, I think Todd's line there was pretty obvious, and I think that game it kind of just showed you how powerful Shrivel is after board.
He was a 3 for 1 and then a 2 for 1.
Yeah, and Todd's sideboard plan actually really paid off there. The Thought Seize was able to slow Jonathan down a little bit, and then the Lifebane Zombie was able to take another creature, because obviously the Fiendslayer Paladin could be an issue for Todd, so he was able to steal that. And ultimately, I think Todd's deck is, I'm not going to say it's favored after board, but Shrivel just changes everything.
Well, what is it? With the white weenie decks, what you always... I remember when I've played them in the past, what you'd say is, okay, white weenie is inherently bad against Wrath of God, because the deck means the deck forces you really to commit creatures, and it's not, you want to make it so that you don't lose to the first Wrath of God, but the second Wrath of God often gets you with a white weenie deck, and in that situation, Todd did have the double sweeper.
Yeah, in order to beat the Shrivel after board, Jonthan really has to be on the play, and then he has to have a draw where it's basically a 1-drop, and then his Precinct Captain followed up by an Ajani or a Spear. Those are the kind of draws he needs in order to beat Todd's plan after board. Without those types of draws, he just really exposed himself to a Shrivel. Now, granted, Todd only has 3 copies of Shrivel. It's not like he's had 4. But the fact that it's only 2 mana means that it could just get cast so early and just 3-for-1 Jonthan early on. That's just something Jonthan's deck, it's not resilient enough to that kind of removal.
So does Jonthan have to be wary? So say he had a hand of, I'm going to give you an example hand, playing from Jonthan's side. Say he had land, Mutavault. I'm going to give you a great hand. Soldier of the Pantheon, Dryad Militant, Spear of Heliod. So, he starts with the 2-1. Does he double 1-drop the next turn, or does he have to now play conservatively to, maybe wait until that spear comes down so that he doesn't get shriveled out of a game?
I think he has to play the percentages and just go for it, because especially if you're on the play, if you go 1-drop and then turn 2, 1-drop, followed up with a spear, the odds that you're going to lose are pretty low. I mean, you have a very good high win percentage, I think, from that position.
You do lose to a Shrivel, right?
You lose to a Shrivel, but you still have a Mutavault and a Spear. So it's not like your hand's terrible after, because you can still play Spear, and then you have a Mutavault, and then any creature you draw there is going to be fine against a Shrivel. The thing is, though, Todd's only has 3 copies of Shrivel.
Right.
And, there are a lot of times where you can't worry about whether or not they have the Supreme Verdict against Blue-White Control. Your deck is an all-in deck. It's not like you're that... if you hold back one of the creatures, that might be okay. But then what if he has a Thought Season, he takes your Spear?
Yeah, I mean, it does make Precinct Captain possibly a better 2-drop than the triple 1-drop start, just because Precinct Captain is the only card in his deck that doesn't get killed by Shrivel.
Yeah, his ideal draw is always going to be 1-drop Precinct Captain.
Okay.
Just because that allows him to further increase his board presence without overly exposing himself to Shrivel. But, like we said before the first game, this after board, that's where Ajani and Spear become much more important.
So the other thing about the matchup, and what I was saying, Todd obviously is a control deck. When I see white-red aggro play against Sphinx's Revelation, right? Once Sphinx's Revelation resolves a Revelation for 4, white-red almost never gets back into the game. Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering, can Todd's deck lose that control grip because he doesn't have a big thing like Sphinx's Revelation, or is Pack Rat enough to basically close off Jonthan's top decks?
I think Pack Rat's usually enough, because Jonthan's deck, White Weenie doesn't have a lot of reach. It's not like a mono-red deck where you can start kind of burning them out. There's just not a lot of reach with white-red, other than like a card like Boros Charm, which I'm not even sure you want after board.
Yeah, well, there's no 1-drop from Jonthan's side. Todd has to be happy about that. He's going to Thought Seize and see the rest of his hand. Jonthan started on Sacred Foundry. He has a 4-land hand, so 2 plains and a Mutavault. The creatures he kept were triple 2-drops, so it's Daring Skyjack, Precinct Captain, Imposing Sovereign.
Yeah, so he had the Precinct Captain. Unfortunately, he's going to get Thought Seize. He doesn't have a 1-drop. He does have all the mana he needs, so Opposing Sovereign is going to come down. Another problem with white-red aggro is you really don't want more than 3 mana. Yeah. So Jonthan doesn't want to draw any more lands this game.
Yeah, and he did hit land number 5. So right now, Imposing Sovereign will be able to swing past the Pack Rat that Todd played, because Pack Rat came into play tapped. Jonthan has the choice between Daring Skyjack or hitting with Mutavault. So looks like he's going to go with the Skyjack.
Yeah, and this is a great situation for Todd. He's got that turn 2 Pack Rat. It's going to be able to get activated. Looks like he has a Shrivel too, so no reason to cast that now. He's just going to activate a Pack Rat. And yeah, Jonthan really doesn't have much going here. He's got another 1 toughness creature, which is just going to get blown out by Shrivel here.
The remainder of his hand is Soldier of the Pantheon and Brave the Elements. So he's going to activate Mutavault. That'll give him Battalion, except for the fact that Todd casts Doomblade. He casts it wisely on the Mutavault, so that he's playing around Brave.
Oh, wow. So Todd decides to not take any more damage.
Yeah, he
No,
traded the pack rat with the Skyjack there. I'm wondering if he actually has the Shrivel as a result then.
yeah, it looks like he has another pack rat in his hand along with Blood Baron. So I think he's
Yeah,
basically saying, I'm winning this game with Blood
he has
Baron.
Doomblade, Devour Flesh, Blood Baron, pack rat, Godless Shrine.
Yeah. So this is a pretty good hand for Todd. He's going to be able to play a pack right here. He still has removal up. And as long as he draws a 5th land, Blood Baron can lock up this game for him.
All right, Godless Shrine to play untapped. And Todd's just going to go ahead and removal spell the entire board here. Looks like Devour Flesh will take care of Soldier of the Pantheon.
I think he just passes here. He might be afraid of Borostrom, but...
yeah, he has a Doomblade. He could Doomblade, pack rat, or pass.
Yeah, he's going to do it on the upkeep. And we're going to have a Brave here.
All right, so Suarez will get to keep 1 creature. He hits in with Imposing Sovereign, plays Boros Elite. Todd has a hand of double Blood Baron right now, but no 5th land. Packer comes into play tapped, and Todd's life points are going away quickly.
Top deck to Johnny. That is a huge top deck for Jonthan here.
Well, that means the Blood Baron's no good anymore, right?
Well, now it's going to be tough. With Todd at 10, he's going to be able to go Johnny. He can put a +1/+1 counter
on the
Sovereign or the Boros.
If he puts it on the Sovereign, then if Todd taps out for Blood Baron, then he just double fly strikes and flies it over for the wins. The Blood Baron's no good.
This is probably that's going to be able to drop him down to 6 here. Can we get a top deck? Oh wow, just a Hero's Downfall. So that's not a bad draw there.
It buys him time now. The Imposing Sovereign has been doing a lot of work here too. Todd can't actually make blockers because they all come into play tapped. I mean, I think it feels like he just has to downfall the Imposing Sovereign.
Oh wow, so Jonthan went for it, and how? Yeah, I think with mana up, you have to just put a counter on your Boros Elite.
Oh wow, and Suarez trades the Boros Elite with the pack rat.
And there's the 5th land. He's gonna go to 4 and play a Baron.
How did we get to this point though?
Top deck Boros. No, wow, unbelievable.
Okay, so back up to the turn where he jumps the Imposing Sovereign. If Suarez just puts a 1/1 counter on Boros Elite, doesn't he win off that board?
Yeah, I don't think he wins off that board, but I think you have to put a 1/1 counter on your Boros Elite and just attack with both, playing around a removal spell.
Yeah, we see Fiendslayer Paladin, but it cannot fight down a horde of Blood Barons. Todd is able to make both of them. They swing for 8, and lifelink Todd back up to 12, well out of range of Suarez. As Suarez's Fiendslayer Paladin. And it looks like Todd has this one locked up, and a 3rd Blood Baron joins the party.
Might as well, yep. Let's see what. I'm not sure what he's hoping to top deck.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say maybe Mizzy Mortars.
Yeah.
All right, so Todd Anderson 2-1 defeats Jonthan Suarez.
Yeah, and it all came down to that one turn where he tried to go for it by jumping his Imposing Sovereign. If he just puts a +1/+1 counter on his Boros Elite, attacks with both, basically Todd is forced to just Hero's Downfall the Imposing Sovereign, and he can choose to block and just chump block the Boros Elite.
Which I think he has to. Because if he doesn't